In May 2008, my doctor found a grapefruit-sized tumor in the middle of my chest. A few weeks later, I was officially diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and started chemotherapy and radiation. I was only 25 and by the numbers had a good chance of survival, but I soon realized that although cancer might not kill me, it could destroy me emotionally if I let any bitterness take hold of my heart. We were like, you know what, if we're going to do something about this, if we're going to keep people from feeling the way that I was feeling, let's do something for young adults with cancer. And that's when we came up with this idea.
Which makes it pretty interesting.
Let's say airport. Airport. No, it doesn't pick up the airport. We're going to the airport to pick up Elson Adams, the first arrival.
Please repeat.
Airport.
Please repeat.
I knew you would recognize us. It's sweet. Nice to meet you.
Hey, good to meet you.
I made it a bit late.
I was on 115 the whole time. This car is just pushing it a little bit.
Yeah, it's because the wind's against it.
As former adventure guides, my wife and I had experienced the unique ability of wilderness trips to bring about growth and healing in people's lives. So we invited a group of young adult cancer survivors from across Canada to join us on an 8-day whitewater kayaking expedition. We wanted to explore with them some of the unique issues that affect young adults with cancer. The Owyhee River in southeast Oregon served as the perfect location for our expedition, with its sheer canyon walls, numerous Class 3 rapids, and because it is one of the most remote rivers in the United States. After 8 months of preparation and with the help of our guides from Owyhee Adventures, we were finally ready to get on the water.
My sleeping bag is intensely slippery, so I'm basically just going to slowly slip down the hill and eventually I'll crash into whoever's sleeping down in that general vicinity.
We're going to play a little name game, and so before we do that name game, I'm going to...
Alright, so it's Monday, July 13th, and we finally made it to Rome, Oregon, next to the beautiful Owyhee River. I'm glad that we made it here safe, and everyone's really in high spirits, and we're really excited to get on the river tomorrow. So far so good.
I've never camped under the stars like this, and I'm totally thrilled about it. So I'm not doing the one pair of underwear thing. That's just, not cool.
I look like a dork. I've done many dorky things, so I could care less what I look like.
I've never done river kayaking before, so not totally sure what to expect.
Just gonna keep an eye out for the scorpions and snakes, and I think I'll be all good.
I look very Columbia-rific. Patent pending on that word there.
One way that we're going to use to sort of introduce the themes is we have our little theme cards. You're just going to go find a nice spot by yourself out here, and it's sort of like just a morning quiet time, a time to sort of reflect a bit on the theme of the day.
When you're first diagnosed with this, there's a huge transition from living a normal life into going into treatment and kind of putting everything on pause. And then there's another transition coming out of it as well. You kind of progress in stages.
Kind of the new reality, like not being able to have any more kids.
Yay, we're finally about to get on the water. Woo!
Don't get frustrated. It takes a while in the saddle to really get the feel, because what it takes is a real good balance as far as right and left, and a lot of us are not ambidextrous. As we paddle around, it's really forgiving here, so just try and set up little points to paddle to. If you veer off of them, that's okay. Try it again, and if you spin out of control, enjoy the scenery.
It's going to be an incredible challenge for me physically to go through the 8 or 9 days on the water here. And yeah, we'll see how I feel tomorrow morning after a good night's sleep. And
Entering the canyon is just always stunning. I think that's just an amazing moment to watch all these yellow blade paddles just going up and down as they're in front of me, going into this huge canyon. It's just a really neat moment.
One weight that we're going to use to sort of keep the theme in our minds is we're going to have our little flags. When we get to the beach, we'll plant it there, and one person every day gets to carry this in their kayak. Everyone can follow them down there.
I suppose that there's usually a large negative feeling and you know, maybe even actions right at the beginning of a diagnosis, and then you go into treatment, and I didn't have that. I really believed what the doctors were telling me. We're going to beat this thing. We're going to be very aggressive. I'm young. I can take it. Cancer is not a death sentence. It's just something you have to get through, and I'd seen that all over the place. The transition happened when my body was no longer something that I could really... It was extremely diminished. It was my lung capacity, my capacity for breathing was terrible. I couldn't walk upstairs. I was like an 85-year-old man in a 32-year-old's body. It's just disappointing if you've worked hard, you've mastered another language, you've taken a lot of courses, only to have all of that washed away. I worked hard, I got some extra education, improved my French skills, got some project management skills, got into this industry that which is incredible, you know, video games, got the position that I wanted, and then 1 month later, you know, everything just derails because I get diagnosed with this ridiculous cancer. It almost seems like it could be for nothing. That is an issue for me.
Yeah.
What kinds of transitions did you go through when you were diagnosed with cancer?
That this is a life-changing disease. Coming out of it, we're not going to be the same as we were.
It was a lot. It was a lot of transitioning. You know, not something I guess I had planned for, so to speak, right? Because since chemo, I have some other unknown big question mark issues in my body. Is it fibromyalgia, or is it like inflammatory bowel disease? Is it rheumatoid arthritis? There's all these just big question marks. And it's really frustrating. I was doing a PET scan, you know, and a week after that I started chemo. And like that transition I think is so abrupt.
And for me anyway, one of my immediate thoughts was, oh my God, I could die. Like not 40 years from now, but I could die right now. And that's really scary. But I mean, the other side of that coin is I might not, you know?
As long as my face isn't cold tonight and I don't get sprayed in the face with a sprinkler, that'll be great.
I like this thing.
Fear and uncertainty. I think fear is a big thing for us. That fear that it may come back. Cancer has kind of put us on a different path. So I think trying to figure out like where we belong or where we fit probably goes into the uncertainty.
One of the most difficult things is the not knowing, being uncertain about your future, uncertain of what's going to happen to you when you go into the hospital, what's going to happen when you come out of it. It's not a very comfortable feeling. There's fear of it coming back. Like Vic there, I mean, he believes that his second cancer is because of the treatment that he had for his first one, so is that going to happen to me too? Mortality is something that we're forced to face.
I guess as a kid, when you're a kid, you know, you're scared of needles, right? That was the biggest fear I had.
Totally. I felt like I was paddling. I'm like, okay, if the river goes this way, which way do I have to go?
And I think the whole uncertainty thing is something that we all have to deal with. You know, me and Bonnie don't even know if we should even bother making plans anymore. Cheryl, do you want to carry the flag today?
Sure.
That'd be great. So we'll have this in the boat. Today, just to give you guys sort of a little heads up, we're going to be starting to hit rapids on a regular basis. We'll see how far we get down the river today.
I think like so many people, when you hear the word cancer, you immediately think, you know, God, I could die. I just felt like I was sort of chained to the ground, and there was this like monster coming at me from behind me, and I couldn't see it, but I could hear it and I could feel it. You know, when I don't know what's going to happen, that's what really makes me fearful.
I think the problem was every time I was told to avoid it is where I went to it.
See that rock right in the middle? The black one? You just want to go to the right, just after that. No, you're fine. We'll do great.
And then I think what happened is I tried to get myself off of it and kind of tilted, but I think I scared myself and ended up turning over. And then when I was turned over and I was moving, that scared me. But then I kind of thought in the back of my mind, there's worse things like chemo. So I know when I was first diagnosed that was, I think the reality hit me the most when I walked into the cancer center and I knew, oh my God. And then just tears were just flying.
My biggest fear was that, you know, that I would die and that I wouldn't get to see Emma grow up. You know, if John and Emma went out for a drive or something, you know, when she was a baby and she couldn't settle or something, they'd go out for a drive. I wouldn't let them go out by themselves because I just thought, you know what, if today's the day that truck comes through the stoplight and kills my family, I have to be with them because I couldn't live without them.
If we're going down hard. None of this halfway stuff. If the snow comes made to sink this ship, who will I fight with the one who created it?
They used the term your large intestine kind of exploded and went into my small intestine. So they had to remove pretty well all of it. I had 6 months of chemo. I had treatments the first 5 days of each week, and then basically had diarrhea straight for 2 weeks, and then it's like a roller coaster. And then I had a week of kind of build my system back up, and then hit me again, build it up, hit me again.
Like it was like a constant fear, not necessarily like of cancer coming back or dying of cancer, but it was just being afraid of everything.
18 days after my surgery, I started teaching kindergarten. I was told I had a 30% chance of surviving. That was the first thing I was told when I walked into the room.
I don't know what to do.
Ta-da.
I'm positive that cancer sucks. Not only that, but it also blows. A feat impossible for us, because we can't suck and blow at the same time. I'm positive that bad things are going to happen. They can't all be avoided. I am also positive that tomorrow is another day, with possibilities too numerous to count. I am positive there are a lot of good people in the world. They just don't stand out like the jerks. Positive and happy are not synonyms. All emotions must be experienced. We have them all for a reason. Not to be suppressed, but acknowledged, experienced, then let go. To experience the whole spectrum of life.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That's awesome.
It's the biggest bug net or head net I've ever seen.
Put it on.
Put it on. That's a great look.
You look like a beekeeper.
Just put it over your chair. There we go. Alright. When can fear be a positive thing and when can it be negative?
I hate fear. That is to say, I see fear in other people, and I sometimes, not always, you know, if I consider it to be not a particularly legitimate fear, I sometimes get incensed. Come on, you know, just come on, just do it. You know, there's nothing there. They're just phantoms.
You know, like Elson said, I think fear becomes a bad thing when it stops you from doing things that will help you live a more full life.
Knowing that I was having this poison injected into my body that was killing everything good in my body, as well as everything bad, was really hard for me. Everything leading up to me going there, coming home, everything around chemo was anxiety producing for sure. It was horrible.
There's one quote here. It says, "Every time we choose safety, we reinforce fear." I think we, as young adult cancer survivors who have faced fear, we need to be the people that step out. I'm going to say, to living beyond fear.
Beyond fear.
Living beyond fear.
Awesome.
Cheers.
There's a lot of uncertainty about whether when people signed up for this trip, whether or not they'd be able to do this. And this day really proved to us that they were able to, and it was really awesome to see them sort of conquer the fear that they had and the uncertainty that they were feeling.
Oh my God, you're good. It's forage. It's fake orange.
Sunscreen on those legs, huh? Yeah. So, I'm just going to push you out, go right through the middle there.
Right?
Go for
Well, that was fun. And by fun, I mean scary as hell.
So I remember being ill and being bald and not wanting to look at myself in the mirror, not wanting anybody to see me the way I looked because I thought I looked horrendous.
But there wasn't a whole lot I could do with my friends anymore because a lot of them, we were into, rock climbing and hiking and things like that, and that wasn't really something we could do anymore. So
it's kind of interesting because the word cancer has been so mystified, like we were saying earlier, that even 6 months in, I knew that I had cancer, but didn't really sink in. So that took a while to kind of get used to, because the word has so much power in it.
our goal today is to sleep less stupid tonight.
Okay.
We should get that on camera.
We do have it on camera. I kind of put myself into a really deep, dark hole where no one could access me. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to have any fun because I felt like crap. I was depressed and I cried most of the time.
I could say that I didn't feel isolated, but after the surgery, I was at home. There wasn't always somebody there, and I'm there in bed, lying there for just hours and hours.
I'm nervous about getting in the middle of those two to start. I just want to get down one without wiping out. That's all I'm saying.
You've been down them without wiping out?
Not lately.
Oh, we got the rock there. Okay, a little hole. Keep your feet up. Keep your feet up. Keep your feet up. There you go.
All right, good luck, babe. Thanks. Here we go. Being told you have cancer, I suddenly got really, 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 really bad at thinking positively. Well, I think, you know, that when we went down earlier and I smashed my leg up pretty bad and just waiting at the top of this one, I just really didn't want to come down. And then I got hung up on a rock and flipped again, and I don't know, just feel like I can't do anything right today. It's really frustrating.
Hey, we got some good water right there.
That's interesting. You know, you don't actually have to be alone to feel isolated, and I guess that's what we've heard so far. I was never alone, but I was definitely isolated at times.
For the first month or so, I didn't even want to talk to like extended family, just because I was tired of explaining everything and answering the same questions over and over again, and even kind of you feel like you have to make them feel better and reassure them that you're gonna be okay, which gets old pretty fast. It's kind of like all your peers move past you, especially at that transition time in my life. I just kind of missed out in a couple years that way.
Isolation for me came into the effect of the type of cancer I had, because you don't talk about that. It's like a taboo subject. You don't talk about your bowels and stuff like that.
When I got sick, I hadn't gone on my first date. It's just one of those milestones, and I guess that was a time when I kind of missed that.
I'm much too urban for this sort of thing. Yeah, covered in what I'm pretty sure is 60-year-old manure.
There was nobody around I could talk to with the same experience. There was nobody. There's nobody that had an endodermal sinus tumor of their ovary. Nobody understood anything I was going through. My boyfriend, my mom, anybody. Everything about it was isolating. Sitting in that chemo room and everybody around me is like 60-something. I'm the only young person in there. It was a very isolating experience.
How did you do that? That's my wife. Yeah, I basically spent the first 3 months of my treatments just in the basement watching TV and feeling sorry for myself and trying to forget all the stuff that I was missing out on. That summer, it was in the middle of the summer and I just hated being inside, but I didn't feel good enough to do a lot of stuff. And even though I was living in my hometown, I didn't even try and connect with any of my friends, and none of them really even tried to contact me either. So I felt very isolated. There was one night where I was just like, I just could not take it. I was like, why, God, why is this happening to me? I felt like I was in the place that God wanted me to be, and and it just felt like I was torn away from that without any chance. And so I just was getting so angry and so upset, and I just laid down face first on the floor and just said, I am at the complete end. I can't even understand where you're going with this. I don't know why you would ever do this to me, and I just cannot understand it. So I just laid there and cried for a bit, and then for some reason after that, I really feel like he changed my attitude. We're like, you know what, if we're gonna do something about this, if we're gonna keep people from feeling the way that I was feeling, let's do something for young adults with cancer. And that's when we came up with this idea.
I had those first thoughts like, why didn't I get it? And then to watch him go through that, and to see him in a lot of pain in the chemo treatments, and then just to have such an abrupt change of lifestyle for myself too, but also to see his passions kind of taken away, or so it felt like at the time, was really difficult. Feelings of purposelessness and all that kind of stuff, loss of direction in life, like it really just uproots you and just throws you in an entirely different direction that you never would have imagined. It's just a real shock, a real shock to your identity and to who you are and what you think that you love. I've never experienced such a crazy transition in my entire life. And yet there were some moments that made it fun. I think that kind of brought us together. Like every time we went to the hospital for a treatment, the people would walk around, volunteers, and give out Tim Hortons coffee and home baked cookies, and so it's sort of like, let's go to the hospital and get our treat and get our coffee and cookies. Pick up a magazine while we wait for 2 hours, and that became the new routine. And together it was fun together. We almost looked forward to it. It was like our social outing of every 2 weeks. I think as somebody who is a supporter versus a survivor, or somebody being diagnosed and going through cancer, you want to do everything you can to help, and there's weird moments where you are really helpless. I can't necessarily hold the same billboard, but I can be right there holding his hand, as he holds kind of the flags up for these issues that we want to bring to light, and that's a great place to be. Bonnie's got the sweet slogan, "Huck it huge." And that's really what we try and do with our lives. We try and huck it huge, just go for it, and really enjoy life to the fullest.
I showed up with this support group, and all the people there were like 50 years old. So basically, I was the only 28-year-old there. What was the topic of conversation? Well, I was losing my hair. Well, big deal to them, because they're old. No offense against them. They're retired and have cottages. I haven't even started a career. So nothing in common with them. And kind of got in a heated discussion with them, actually, because they said it's cancer. Cancer is cancer. And I said, yes, it is, but it's different when you're in a different stage of life. I said, you guys are all retired. You have your cottages or whatever. Your children have grown up and moved away. I don't have any children. I haven't started my career yet. I had nothing against them, but they had nothing in common with me, and why would they? So I think that is where the isolation came in.
In terms of my family, yeah, I really messed that up. I never really let on with them how scared I was, or how sad I was, or anything. I mean, I think I hid it from myself a lot too. The rare times when I did sort of let myself feel the fear or the sadness or the loss or the anger or whatever, it was usually in the middle of the night, and I would just quietly sneak off to the bathroom and have a good cry and make sure I was okay before I went and crawled back into bed. So I didn't really let, particularly John, I didn't let John help me. And I really messed that up. it has fundamentally altered the nature of our relationship. There's this space between us. And we just can't get that back now. And it's gone. And I miss it. I miss feeling connected to him. I really screwed that up.
It's Thursday, July 16th, and day 3 on the river is done. It was a really long day, so far. But it was an awesome day. Everyone swam.
A lot of carnage.
There's a lot of flipping, and we're really excited because we're sleeping in tomorrow. So it was a really good day, though.
Night.
Night.
Go find your spot.
I get lost in the moment, I get lost in the clouds. If I could, I would stay here, but I go to come down sometime.
Coming into the bank, see these interesting rock formations around, and then Mikey says we're going to climb to the top of it.
Now I've got my head somewhere else, and I'm happy to pretend.
Oh, it totally does!
And
where's Mikey?
No way.
I did shut down a lot when I got diagnosed. I wouldn't let a lot of people see what was really going on. That shutting down, yeah, I think it was a really big piece of protecting myself. It was like, I have to get through this, and to be able to get through this, I can't be that raw and that open. It was too much. It was way too much. The chemo, I mean, I remember lying there in bed and just feeling like I couldn't move at all. And it was just me. You know, I really thought of my boyfriend as my partner, you know, someone that I was going to continue my life with and move through all these different phases, and I expected him to be there for me. He just didn't know what to do, really. You know, he wanted to fix it, and he couldn't fix it. He couldn't fix me, and he couldn't stop me from feeling so horrible all the time and depressed, and nothing changed, and it was really frustrating for him because I wouldn't change.
This is forever. Goodbye to the striving. Goodbye to goodbying. This is forever. Goodbye to the striving. Goodbye to goodbying.
There were times I had to cab myself to my chemo treatments because nobody could drive me. My mom lived in, 5-hour drive away, and she'd come for my week on, and for the second and third and fourth treatments, she would stay for sometimes 2 to 3 weeks at a time in my tiny little apartment, and it was really tough because I'm pretty independent, and my dignity and being able to do things for myself was just gone. I got really mad because I wanted him there. I didn't want her to have to do all this. I wanted him to be there. And he couldn't. It was a hard one to let go of. So, still working on that.
It's weird how you can have so much tragedy and so much loss and so much pain, and it, for me, healed this relationship that I had with my mom in a way that I hadn't been able to do before.
my family played such a huge role, especially in terms of when I was sick. Like, my brothers would be there whenever they could, and basically they just helped to keep me grounded and take my mind away from it. You know, there's nothing like talking to your brothers every day about normal stuff.
You know, we had some interesting conversations and just sort of dealing with that. At some point, I had to get a job, just as far as I had to be the one going out and working. And I guess in a traditional sense, it's not necessarily so today, but, you know, more of kind of the male role.
It really played to my inadequacy feelings, you know, the fact that I couldn't provide for my wife. You know, I was the one sitting at home feeling terrible watching TV while she had to go get up at 4 in the morning and go do physical training, you know, and it really, I had a really difficult time with that.
My story is not like any that have been written before. My story is not easily categorized into genres like comedy, tragedy, or other such, because it fits into all of them. My story is an epic. There was a beginning, the middle is underway, and there will be an ending. My story can be inspiring, it can be sad, or make people angry. People try to tell me where my story should go, but they only play a small part and have little influence over where it will go. There are many stories in this world, but I can truly call this one my own.
My dad wasn't really in the picture. He called me once through my treatment, and that was hard. I always had an expectation of a father to care for his children, and I guess I know he does in his own way, but he just wouldn't ever demonstrate it. It was hard not hearing from him at all through my cancer experience.
I really felt like it was a burden. I really found it really hard to ask for help. So I didn't.
Weird part of me that, like, I just wanted to be the one to go with Mikey to the treatments, and I just wanted to be the one to make him dinner, and there were all this other support, which was great, but it almost felt like I wanted to sort of insulate him just because we were trying to become on our own, and then there's
relationships, I think, are probably one of the biggest things that young adults really deal with when they get diagnosed.
Halfway mark. And we climbed a mountain, you know?
And we climbed a mountain, all right. That's awesome. So today is, I have no idea what day it is. It's day 4 on the river.
Friday, July 17th.
Okay.
I'm grateful for this relationship.
Yeah, me and Bunny got to talk about our relationship and how awesome it is.
And how blessed we are.
Yeah, how blessed we are.
Got a good chance to grow those relationships today.
Another good day. All right. And I think this is also obviously another big theme in young adults, because we're still at that time in our lives where we're discovering who we are, right? We're trying to move out on our own, we're trying to separate from our parents and create our own identities. And we feel like we're a bit behind in a way. I think it's really important to use cancer to sort of help shape who we are, but not let it define us, not let it become our identity.
Look at him. Look at that skull.
You guys ready for this?
I don't feel like going first. Are we going like one right after another?
Okay, you ready?
I'm going through the left side of this right channel here, right? I want to go to the other side, or? Yeah, here we go. Oh, where am I going? Left, okay. In the middle? Right here. all right. That was all right. I kind of felt like a bit of an expert there.
Got a plan for your son, all you need to do is pay close attention. Push a few buttons, sit back and relax. With this comes identity, yeah. This is how we...
2 weeks after my follow-up, I discovered that lump, and it turned out to be the osteosarcoma, which is, of course, when the bone got radiated, it just, formed another tumor, I guess. Since I had this, the bone here removed, I've noticed there's a lot more scarring than there used to be. Didn't really feel right with the negative on the right side, right profile of my face. It just could never get the self-esteem that I needed. One thing I've noticed is just the way humans are, is that's just first impressions, right? First impression, when you look at someone, that sticks in your mind until you really get to know that person. Because it's like after 20 years, you're used to your face in some ways, but you're still some real constant reminders of what had happened. Always looking in my head and always looking that way, and every time I look at myself in the mirror on this side, never really liked the way I looked. It's a very delicate issue.
I was thinking I had to do this. I mean, if I'm gonna live a life beyond fear, I've got to go for it every time.
Yeah, Alston.
Okay.
Alston, grab the top of your life jacket when you go in, just so it doesn't come up and
Are we ready?
Yeah. Count it down. You are now invited.
Hold on a sec.
Yeah, Alston.
Let's see.
One step. That's
Oh, I need one.
spot,
I need to go here, right?
No, just jump.
It's a target.
You come around. I think we usually run around this way.
Oh, this is smart.
You got it. Let's go.
Yeah,
You got it.
Way
Don't
to
even
make
think.
it sound like
Oh, just like that.
Just like
that.
you're doing it.
Yep.
What are you doing? Get away from me!
Don't even worry about
No, my foot got stuck there for a second.
You got it.
Yeah, you don't have to step down.
One.
Oh my god. It's that extra 2 feet. Alright. I can't believe it. I needed to do this and then... I hate fear. Come on. Just come on. Just do it. There's nothing there. They're just phantoms. They're just phantoms.
When you're a kid, your parents tell you who you are and what you are interested in and all that kind of stuff. When you're older, you have a lot of that stuff figured out, but right in our time of life is when we're deciding who we are, what's important to us, and where we want our lives to go.
play by the rules, you do what you're supposed to. Study, work hard, get ahead, make connections, transition, put yourself in a better position, and get your reward. And what did I get? Well, on May 3rd, 2007, I got cancer of the esophagus, adenocarcinoma. And I hadn't experienced anything like that before, so I felt excitement, new experiences, treatment while working. A lot of harsh treatments that stung, but it's okay because I'm young. It's all right. On August 27th of that year, 85% of my esophagus and 25% of my stomach were removed. That was a hell of a change. Weakness, irritability, hate, self-loathing, worn like old clothing, mental and emotional strain, more pain, discovery through recovery. Return? February 2008. 2 small metastases, 2 more tumors in nodes. And I parenthesize, these are nothing but vectors for cancer. End parenthesis. Keep going. Fight through this thing. You will get through this. All we have to do is have more treatment. But of course, I got another tumor that year. I went back to work. Nothing worked. 2 months of failure. 3 months torture. 4 months waiting. 5 months return. And what did I learn? Acceptance. I can do more. I can face more. I can be more. Because I am alive.
I would hope that, cancer diagnosis or not, that everyone finds a way to be happy with who they are.
You know what I would say? I would say find something that doesn't change.
What doesn't change?
Mikey, I think that
Find that constant.
at least 4 times this week, you've been building to a point, but you just haven't said it. Would you care to say it?
I think, honestly, I don't think I ever could have found out who I really was apart from my relationship with God. That's been the one thing that stayed constant throughout my entire life, but especially my cancer experience, was that I knew that I had a God who loved me, who wanted the best for me. And no matter what happened to me, that would never change. If I died, that would still be the same. If for the rest of my life, I couldn't come out here to this beautiful place, that would never change. If I was completely isolated, that wouldn't change. If I, had some serious issues with my transitions, that would never change. It really was the one thing that will never change. You can't base your identity on things that will just wither and disappear. What I would desire for people to know, to discover that for themselves, that's what I would really like.
We're all coming from different places, but we want to encourage you guys to search. If you know what that is, then hang on to it, but keep searching, because you gotta stay grounded with something, and we know that.
Alright, so it's July 18th, our 5th full day on the river. It's super hot tonight. Everyone was a bit nervous in the morning. They did really well. It was really cool to watch the progression.
A lot of cool victories in each person's time, no matter what happened.
And the canyon was just unbelievable coming into it. It was so cool to watch everyone paddle in front of me, just like staring up at the sky. These plugs are crazy.
I had 3 scars in 2006. The first one is from my port.
In January of 2000, I got this scar right here, you can't see it, it's about an inch long. That was from a third ventriculostomy to relieve spinal fluid pressure that was building up behind my tumor.
There's one going from below the belly button all the way here. There's a couple of little ones on this side for tubes to get rid of stuff, collapsed lung puncture wounds here. And we also have this little guy, which is a portacath for the delivery of chemotherapy, and it'll actually set alarms off in the security of the airport.
My scar I got in 2004 when they had to remove most of my large intestine and a portion of my small intestine. They had to do a resection of my intestinal tract.
I had surgery to remove my right ovary and fallopian tube. It was called a salpingo-oophorectomy.
Every time for chemo, they would find a new vein in my arm or my hand. And so a lot of the scarring in my body is inside. All these veins are sort of dead.
So I have just one big scar, which is right here from a Hickman line catheter. They just cut a little hole, I think up here, and strung it down here, and that was in there for about over a year. Yeah, I just told myself that this summer I was going to take some time off and really have some fun to make up for what I missed. Basically just some of the better years of your youth, you know? I know all the stuff that my friends got to do when they were 18, 19, 20 that I missed out on. Nothing all that great. I mean, just starting university at that age and maybe a lot of stupid, reckless stuff that I probably shouldn't have been doing anyway, but you don't get a second chance at it, you know? Part of my identity used to be that I was an athlete, and that's gone now, so it really does kind of change your mindset and how you look at participating in life. I guess a cancer survivor is one of the ways that I define myself.
Rock at the bottom. That's the one I'm kind of, because you know you do go into those rapids and you're like, oh, this is fun, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a rock.
Good luck.
As soon as I step on Jason's foot, I'm off the ground. We'll see how many times I can go around.
You monkey! Monkey! My pants are falling! You moved me! You moved me! You totally did it!
Oh, yeah! Yeah, high five!
Alright, next time. I got blue!
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
My high was doing that class 4 today. I thought that was awesome, and then watching everybody come through and just kicking it, I thought that was awesome.
It was actually just going through one of the smaller rapids. It was kind of a technical one, and I just went through it perfectly, I thought.
And this is the first time you guys have all been doing this, and it's been amazing to watch you really just try things and go for it. And it's that whole living beyond fear, you know. I think you guys have all really grabbed a hold of that. I'm sure all of you know by now we're going to do a 24-hour solo. It's going to be difficult for everyone. I know that, because in our culture we're not used to silence. We're not used to stillness. We're not used to being alone.
Welcome to the middle of nowhere, Hawaii River. I think being alone with your thoughts is something that most people should take more time for, but we don't. It's going to be an interesting experience because I haven't spent 24 hours by myself and mostly silent.
I remember specifically one morning when I got up, I was on my own and it was a really bad day. I lay there on the couch and the sun came across through the window and I could hear the birds outside. And I think that was the first time that I'd actually, through that cancer experience, stopped to not pay attention to what was going on in me, how gross I felt, but to actually pay attention to what was going on outside. Today was really nice to just kind of sit back and kind of let everything settle in, and listening to the wind blow through the trees and the sound of the rapids up ahead and behind us.
You know, cancer took so much from my life, and it hurt so much. But it has opened up this whole new world for me.
So this trip has been quite emotional for me, actually. I've been distracting myself for a long time, and I'm not sure yet, but something inside me has changed, and I feel like something's touched me. I don't know how to describe it.
Despite everything that I've lost, despite all the pain I've gone through, despite all the sadness and the anger and the fear, despite all that, I think cancer might be a gift to me. I like to think I always sort of appreciated life. I always appreciated the small things. But now those things resound with me in a way they just didn't before. And I think I wouldn't have any of this. I wouldn't have met any of these people if it weren't for cancer. I'm really enjoying this, and I love being alive.
A few years ago, I never would have jumped off a 20-foot cliff into the water, and maybe I wouldn't have wanted to rappel down a cliff face. And it's just kind of opened my mind to a whole bunch of new possibilities of things that I could do with my life. Instead of just dreaming about them, it makes me want to kind of go out and accomplish some of these things. So I still don't know if this was all worth it, but there's not much point in thinking about that now because I can't take it back. It has given me something that will make the rest of my life different, but in some ways better.
Life is a gift to cherish, not a problem to solve. I really believe that. It's not something I have to solve anymore. It's something I just need to live and let be and go day by day and focus on now. And today, in this silence, really allowed me to do that.
This is the way it is. This is impossible.
I'm doing things that I've never done before. I'm going through rapids, doing things that I fear, even with my ankle and the doctor's telling me, oh, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. And I'm thinking, I've done like quadruple that on the river and my ankle's been really, really good. This was a struggle, but this was a good struggle. It's kind of given me a perspective on how to go about living the rest of my life. I can't get over the scenery. I have a pool at home. I may consider, and I have a garden behind my pool. I may consider putting up mountains, different multicolored mountains.
If cancer were a person, how would you describe it?
Resilient, pitiless. Reminded me of this show I watch sometimes called Frisky Dingo, which is a really stupid animated show featuring a villain who tried to build a giant rocket that would shoot the Earth into the sun, but it ended up firing the wrong way and moved the Earth like 3 feet away from the sun and cured global warming.
That's awesome.
The immediate thought was, as a person, it's just somebody I'm going to punch in the face. Punch right out. Cancer? With a bit more reflection. Has anyone seen Office Space?
Yes.
Imagine Milton Wadhams with power.
Cancer for me is a ninja dictator thief. Ninja because it comes in silently, you don't know it's there, and then all of a sudden, dictator, boom, it takes over everything. And a thief, and it will take everything if you let it. It is human, so it can be beaten and destroyed, and as we see dictators fall.
That's actually pretty good.
That was I like that
You know,
one.
cancer is not good. It's bad, it's evil, it's terrible. You know, it's trying to destroy us. We can turn that around. We can throw it back in its face and learn something from it, and grow from it, and become better people because of it. You know, and that's how I would describe it.
Monday, July 20th. Day 7 on the river. It was our solo day, 24 hours. Alone, just out there by yourself thinking. So our theme for the day was silence, and we decided that, you know, young adults need to be able to take some time of silence. It's such a drastic change of life that you just really need some time to refocus and decide where your life is going to be going now. All right.
This is Reintrojectorization. This is all about taking the things that we've discovered about ourselves during our silence and really applying it in a tangible way, in a practical way to our lives. This sort of is the capstone to this whole journey that we've been on.
I was a healthy, athletic kid when I was younger. I played hockey and soccer for 11 years. I get sick. Okay, I can't play my sports anymore. The gland that my tumor was on regulates your body's 24-hour sleep-wake cycle. My cycle's not resetting properly, never quite awake, never quite getting into the levels of sleep that I need to recover. After treatment, I mean, there's the cancer patient and then the cancer survivor, and transitioning from being the patient to surviving, and then trying not to to label myself as the poor cancer kid anymore.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm quite proud of the recoveries I made.
Yeah, today you were right out of your boat, standing, and it's like tilted up like this, and all of a sudden you're back in it, going down. Like, how did that happen?
I don't think people with cancer are really any different than anybody else. I know, like, we've talked a lot about, you know, our resiliency and our strength and things like that and our courage and stuff, but I think that that's something that really everybody has within themselves, and I think cancer just gives us an opportunity to explore that and to find that within ourselves and to bring it sort of more to the forefront.
At least I can go home and say I tried and I tried to do it, right? And at least you have video evidence that I tried to do it, right?
Some of the most difficult people on trips are often adults. They have their ideas of what they can and they cannot do, and they aren't willing to go outside of their comfort zones or their boundaries. And I feel like everyone here did that in a huge, huge way on this trip.
Because we're young adults.
Better believe it.
So Lori and Cheryl win the Super Trooper Awards for this trip.
Absolutely.
So you will wipe tomorrow, hon, I promise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just gotta, you know, shy away from a big rock and then just go for it.
One way or another.
If I don't have hope, I have nothing, right? And I think I kind of let that go for a little while during this whole cancer thing, especially during the last 10 months or so. In a few days, I'm gonna be starting treatment again, maybe going back to school, probably starting a new career within the cancer advocacy community. And all of this has given me much more fuel, much more impetus to do that.
That mask stuff, that whole identity stuff that I try and portray, you know, we've had a chance to actually see through those masks, you know, to see what's at the soul of people in our discussions and while we're on the river.
Survive and thrive!
Woo! All right.
I dropped my fist.
You dropped your fist. And that brings us back to the big story, right? We started out talking about the big story. This 1 week is just a small part of that story. Don't leave it here in your story. Take it to the big story level. Stuff happens to you, you know, that you can't control, but you can choose where you go from there. Our story really begins right now. All right, well, Day 8 on the river is all over.
July 21st.
It's amazing that it's actually over. After all that planning and all that work and all, bringing everything together. Yeah. When you actually do make that new trajectory of your life, post-cancer or post-treatment, just to really choose an adventure. These bugs are feeling crazy, so that's it. Turn it off.
My biggest triumph, if I was able to see something that in my life, I really don't get to see. You know, I get to see a lot of frustrations and bitterness, you know, people running around like chickens with their heads cut off. But here, we had a chance to really take stock of what is important and see it in action. That's the really important thing, to actually see these things, these values that people talk about all the time, put into practical action.
I was miserable before cancer. I had friends, but I didn't have a large community. You know, I wouldn't say that if you need community, ask for cancer. That wasn't exactly how it worked, but you know, I don't regret it one bit.
Well, I spent the whole night fighting with some ghost. When the break of found me, and I both won and lost. You see, the question isn't are you gonna suffer anymore, but what will it have meant when you were through? And the question isn't are you gonna die, you're gonna die. Will you be done living when you do? And I spent the whole day running, trying to catch the sun. When the darkness overtook me, all my running had made me strong. You see, the question isn't are you gonna suffer anymore, what will it have meant when you were through? Well, the question isn't are you gonna die, you're gonna die. You'll be done living when you do. So run till you cannot take a single step in strength, then crawl on your hands and knees till your hands and knees they ache. But when you cannot crawl, it will be me you call to carry you back home again.
All the cancer sucks, all that kind of stuff, you know, that has a time and place, you know, and that's an emotion that people have to go through. But there comes a time where you need to move past that. You need to move past that into hope.
See, the question isn't are you gonna suffer anymore, but what will it have meant when you were through? The question isn't are you gonna die, you're gonna die. Will you be done living when you do?
We feel really positive about everything. The only thing we don't know is what's next.
She came wanting to stay, then you left so suddenly. Left me to think about the way I wanna be. How different things could be with a little change.
Fantastic.
Great.
Amazing.
I will wait for you to come around. I will wait for you to see.
I think I'm ready to tackle it.
Frowning all the trouble in your mind will feel so far away now. This little difference between people split by the sea. We're the same.
First.
Oh yeah.
It takes more than a smile to change a life.
General, the big story of life. Bonnie and Susan, and you guys are gonna head off that way.
I will wait for you to come around. I will wait for you to see. Frowning all the trouble in your mind will feel so far away now.
back like this, and Mike's like, oh God, now I'm stuck.
Whoa!
Feel that. Oh.
Yeah, but we'll check it out at lunchtime. And
Sure, just videotape
You can officially now call me Grizzly Adams.